Carl Jung uncovered a profound insight regarding narcissists that often eludes the awareness of many individuals when they recognize that they can no longer exert control over you. Their departure is not as simple as it seems. Instead, they resort to one last, insidious manipulation capable of undoing years of progress in mere weeks. If you fail to identify this tactic, you may unwittingly succumb to their scheme. However, prior to unveiling this final deceitful maneuver, it is essential to comprehend the psychological strategies that preceded. Carl Jung said that the narcissist's greatest fear isn't rejection or abandonment, it's the moment when their victim becomes psychologically stronger than they are, according to Jung's research on the S. Pato-self narcissists project their own weakness onto others to maintain an illusion of superiority, but when you start healing, when you begin setting boundaries and refusing to play their game summit. Jung shifts in their psyche. Jung called this the power inversion crisis, and what happens next will shock you. See, narcissists aren't just looking for someone to love them, they're hunting for someone to control, someone whose energy they can feed off of. Carl Jung discovered that these individuals operate from what he termed the inflated ego, a psychological state where they must constantly prove their dominance to avoid confronting their own inner emptiness. When you are weak, confused, or seeking their approval, you serve their purpose perfectly. You are their psychological supply, their validation machine. But the moment you start standing in your own power, the moment you stop seeking their approval and start trusting your own instinct, you become a threat to their entire identity. And that's when they pull out the weapon Jung warned us about. According to Carl Jung, narcissists will use a technique called psychological projection warfare. When they sense they're losing control, they don't just gaslight you or play the victim anymore. They launch what Jung described as a final assault on your individuation process. This illustrates the situation and elucidates its inherent dangers. They commence by focusing on the very essence of your newly acquired strength. Recall how they once scrutinized your vulnerabilities. Now, they entirely reverse the narrative. Carl Jung posited that this phenomenon arises from the awareness that your strength serves as the sole barrier to their complete dominion over you. They may articulate sentiments such as, "You've changed, and not for the better. You were once so compassionate, but now you appear self-centered. Success has evidently inflated your ego, leading you to believe you are superior to others." However, it is the subsequent revelation from Jung that is particularly chilling. This is not arbitrary critique. In light of Carl Jung's examination of narcissistic behavior, it becomes evident that such tendencies specifically aim at the aspects of oneself that one holds in the highest regard, particularly in the context of healing. Should you cultivate the ability to establish boundaries, you may be labeled as emotionally distant. If you assert your voice, you might be deemed confrontational. Should you develop self-assurance, you could be perceived as presumptuous. Jung referred to this phenomenon as strength shaming, a tactic aimed at instilling guilt regarding the attributes that empower you. However, the most insidious aspect of this manipulation is yet to be revealed. Carl Jung elucidated that when strength shaming proves ineffective, narcissists resort to what he identified as nostalgic manipulation. They begin to evoke memories of a more compliant version of yourself, often reminiscing about the times you found joy in their humor, suggesting you were far happier prior to your engagement with self-improvement literature. They express a longing for the person you once were, claiming that your transformation has adversely affected your relationship. Jung posits that this is a form of psychological time travel, aimed at drawing you back into familiar, albeit unhealthy, dynamics. Their yearning is not for your authentic self, but rather for the version of you that was more easily influenced. If you're not vigilant, you may find yourself yearning for that past iteration as well. However, Jung's findings take a more unsettling turn. When both strength shaming and nostalgic manipulation fail, narcissists will resort to their most perilous tactic, manufactured vulnerability. Carl Jung observed that individuals exhibiting narcissistic traits possess a remarkable ability to discern your most profound vulnerabilities and exploit them to their advantage. They often present themselves as fragile or in distress precisely when you are at your peak strength. This manipulation, as Jung cautioned, reveals a more insidious nature than one might initially perceive. They are adept at orchestrating crises to serve their purposes. It is possible that one may encounter a health scare, financial difficulties, familial conflicts, or emotional turmoil, all strategically aligned with your peak moments of resilience. As posited by Carl Jung, such occurrences are not mere coincidences. They are deliberate. Jung elucidated that individuals exhibiting narcissistic traits meticulously catalog what incites feelings of guilt, what activates caretaking impulses, and what leads to the erosion of personal boundaries. Individuals manipulate your compassion to hinder your recovery, and this revelation will challenge all your previous assumptions about them. Carl Jung posited that individuals exhibiting narcissistic traits frequently engineer crises by fabricating the very dilemmas for which they seek assistance. They may undermine their own relationships, professional endeavors, and well-being, all to cultivate circumstances that compel others to intervene and rescue them. According to Jung's research, this fulfills two distinct functions. It draws you back into the caretaker role, demonstrating to them that they still wield influence over you. However, Jung uncovered something even more unsettling about this manipulation. They do not merely seek your assistance. They desire you to relinquish your newfound strength to bestow it upon them. Carl Jung noted that individuals exhibiting narcissistic traits often request that you compromise the boundaries and values you have diligently cultivated. For instance, they might say, "I understand you typically refrain from lending money, but this situation is unique. I understand you expressed a need for space, yet I find myself in urgent need of your support at this moment. I recognize your focus on self-care, but might you consider extending assistance just this once?" According to Carl Jung, such requests are often crafted to dismantle the psychological defenses one has established. The individual is not merely seeking help. They're subtly asking you to affirm their significance over your own well-being. Should you acquiesce, Jung cautioned, you risk jeopardizing all that you have diligently cultivated. He noted that the perilous aspect of feigned vulnerability is its striking authenticity. The individual may indeed be experiencing a crisis. Yet Jung revealed their adeptness at selecting which crises to disclose to you. They possess alternative contacts and resources, yet they approach you, fully aware that you're the most likely to compromise your boundaries in their favor. Thus, how can one safeguard against this ultimate form of manipulation? According to Carl Jung, the essential aspect lies in grasping what he termed differentiated compassion. One can experience empathy for another's struggles without assuming the burden of resolving them. Jung articulated, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." When an individual exhibiting narcissistic tendencies attempts to draw you back into familiar patterns, even amidst turmoil, it is essential to reflect on the question, does assisting them facilitate my evolution into my authentic self, or does it hinder my progress on that path? Jung's ultimate revelation regarding narcissists will profoundly alter your perception of every relationship. Carl Jung discovered that narcissists fear your strength because it reminds them of their own potential for growth, potential they've abandoned in favor of control and manipulation when you refuse to. Shrink yourself to make them comfortable. You're not just setting a boundary, you're showing them what's possible when someone chooses authenticity over approval, and that's exactly why they'll fight so hard to pull you back down. But here's what Carl Jung wants you to remember: every time you resist their manipulation, every time you maintain your boundaries despite their manufactured crisis, just protecting yourself, you're proving that their power over you is always an illusion. Jung said that true strength isn't about being immune to manipulation, it's about recognizing it, naming it, and choosing your authentic self anyway. because at the end of the day, their desperation to control you is just proof of how powerful you've already become. The narcissist's final dirty trick only works if you forget who you are, but once you see it for what it is, a last desperate attempt to reclaim control, you realize that their need to manipulate you is actually evidence of your freedom. Carl Jung Posey. Ted, that the instant one ceases to be subject to external control is when authentic existence commences. Furthermore, no contrived crisis, regardless of its persuasive nature, merits the relinquishment of that invaluable freedom. I sincerely appreciate your presence throughout this exploration. Should you find merit in today's discourse, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and share this video with individuals who may gain from it.